ask yourself the question, is anything that is present in my experience now depriving me from full access to the inherent peace of my true nature? And is anything that is not present now required for complete ease of being or fulfillment? Do I have to move away from my current experience towards someone or something in order to find the peace and fulfillment for which I long? Or is the peace and fulfillment for which I long available at the very heart of and in the midst of my current experience? Do I not find myself shining in the midst of all my experience, irrespective of its content? And therefore is not the imperturbable peace and unconditional fulfillment that is the nature of myself available in all experiences, at all times, under all circumstances, for all people? Meditation is what I am, not what I do. The separate self is what I do, not what I am. John Smith is who King Lear is. King Lear is what John Smith does. As the Sufis say, I searched for myself and found only God. I searched for God and found only myself. In the traditional progressive paths, it is considered necessary to progressively purify one's mind and body through a series of lengthy and arduous practices before one is considered sufficiently prepared and mature enough to be introduced directly to one's essential, irreducible self. In the direct path, we are considered sufficiently prepared simply by virtue of the fact of being aware. Simply by virtue of the fact that we are aware. That fact of experience is alone sufficient. In that fact of experience, we have all we need to go to the very heart of ourself, to God's presence, and access its imperturbable peace and unconditional fulfillment. not one iota of our current circumstance or experience needs to change. We are perfectly prepared as we are. As Balayani said, most people who claim to know God make the knowledge of God dependent upon the passing away of existence and the passing away of that passing away. The knowledge of God is not dependent upon the passing away of existence or the passing away of that passing away, because things have no existence, and what does not exist cannot pass away. Passing away requires the prior existence of the thing that passes away, and there are no such things. If we know ourselves in this way, without existing or passing away, without appearing or disappearing, then we know God. And if not, then not. In the early years of Christianity, it was considered a heresy to know one's self as God's self, to know one's being as God's being. In this approach, it is considered a heresy to know God's self as our self, to consider God's being our being. What I mean is that it is a heresy to consider oneself a temporary finite self, a self that has its own individual existence apart from God's infinite being. It is a heresy to consider that the I of ourself is anything other than God's infinite I. No self is a self unto itself. No thing has its own independent existence. The am-ness of all selves and the is-ness of all things is God's infinite, indivisible being. And as all there is to ourself is the am-ness of ourself. And all there is to a thing is its is-ness. All there truly is God's infinite, self-aware being. And all seemingly separate objects and selves borrow their apparent existence from that one. If there were anything in existence other than that one, it would be necessary to turn away from existence to find that one. That one is not buried behind existence. It is shining as existence. As Nisargadatta once said, if you want to see God, simply open your eyes and look at the world. Allow the experience of the body to come to your attention. Immediately drop the label body. The newborn infant knows nothing of having a body or being a body. It is simply a field of sensitivity, a field of pure knowing or pure experiencing. And in the midst of this field, this sensation or vibration is appearing. Even to call it a sensation is to credit it with too much object-like existence. It is just a tingling, a vibrating. shape, no size, no color, no form, no gender, no age, no density, no weight, and no location. If we had to name the place at which this vibration is taking place, we would call that place here. But this place here is not a place in space. The newborn infant knows nothing of space. Here is simply where I am, where consciousness is, where God is. Allow this vibration to be so close to yourself that you cannot find any distance between the sensation and yourself. You cannot step back from the sensation and know it as something. There is not yourself and the sensation, or yourself knowing the sensation. There is just this unnameable experience, single, intimate, indivisible. Without separating yourself from this vibration, can you know what this vibration is? And if you cannot know what it is, can you know whether it is pleasant or unpleasant? Remember Rilke's sonnet to Orpheus. Plump apple, smooth banana, melon, peach, gooseberry. How all this affluence speaks life and death into the mouth. I sense, observe it from a child's transparent features while he tastes. What miracle is happening in my mouth? Instead of words, discoveries flow out from the ripe fruit, astonished to be free. Dare to say what apple, truly is. This sweetness, at first thick, dark, dense, then exquisitely lifted in your taste, grows clarified, awake, luminous, double-meaninged, sunny, earthy, real. Oh, knowledge, pleasure, inexhaustible. That is Stephen Mitchell's translation of Rilke's poem, and it is as good an evocation of the tantric path of sensation and perception as any I have ever found in the Kashmir or Tibetan traditions. Sense the body in this way. Bring the experience so close that it grows clarified, awake, and luminous in your experience. Made only of knowledge or knowing. To know only that knowing, to be only that knowing is inexhaustible pleasure, inexhaustible joy. Allow the sensation to bathe itself in your openness. To bathe itself in your luminosity. Bring the experience, bring the vibration, sensation so close that it is completely saturated in the emptiness and luminosity of yourself. If we were to represent this experience, we would just make a pulsating, amorphous cluster of luminous gold points suspended, pulsating in openness. Like luminous particles of dust caught in a shaft of sunlight in an old attic. If in this disinterested and benevolent contemplation old feelings that have been buried in you since early childhood arise. Be careful not to escape the discomfort of them by thinking. On the contrary, be happy that they are making themselves known. After all, they have been buried in the body all these years, dictating our thoughts and feelings and our subsequent activities and relationships from behind the scenes, so to speak. In this disinterested and benevolent contemplation, we are gently inviting them out of their hiding places. Instead of words, discoveries flow out of my mouth, astonished to be free. These feelings that have been buried for so long are astonished to be free. They no longer need to be avoided or suppressed, medicated or meditated away. There is no danger in them. It is our resistance to them that confers danger upon them. Simply offer them to your openness. Surrender them to this open luminosity. Don't touch the feelings. Offer them to this presence and allow this presence to take care of them. They may disappear, they may not. It doesn't matter. These feelings can only veil our own being and its innate peace, or could only veil our innate being and its inherent peace. If they were something other than our being, if they had an existence of their own, then we would have to get rid of them in order to access the peace of being. Remember, Balayani, the knowledge of God does not depend on the passing away of things that exist or the passing away of that passing away. For things have no existence in their own right, and what does not exist cannot pass away. His veil is his oneness, since nothing veils him other than him. He veils himself with his own being. His being is veiled with his own oneness, and such a veiling is no real veiling. God's being doesn't lie behind our experience. It shines in and as our experience. But to know that, we have to bring experience close. So close that we cannot separate ourselves from it and know what it is, let alone know whether it is pleasant or unpleasant. In the Bhagavad Gita it says somewhere, He is in everything and everything is in Him. And whilst this is a beautiful attitude, if we are in a devotional mood, at some point we need to go beyond even this understanding, for it credits things with too much existence of their own. As Balayani said again, understand this so as not to fall into the trap of people who believe in incarnation. He is not in anyone or in anything, and no one and no thing is in Him. There are no objects or selves that appear in Him, that exist in Him, that emanate from Him, or that are permeated by Him. There is just Him, just God's infinite, self-aware being. Pure, infinite, indivisible, luminous, empty knowing. Assuming, freely assuming all the forms of experience. But never actually being, knowing or loving anything other than itself. To impose silence on us today would be to imply that there was something in experience which could veil God's being from itself. So, no need to remain silent now. Thank you.